Hello and welcome to the Blood and Pigment channel. In this video, we're going to review one of the ships from Blood and Plunder. We're going to go over the stats, talk about its strengths and weaknesses, and how it plays in the game. Dan, what ship are we going to talk about today?
Today we are covering the Bermuda Sloop. The Bermuda Sloop is one of the new 18th century sloops. The ship's rigging was perfected in Bermuda and is praised for its speed, maneuverability, and upwind performance. Where a frigate would be considered a lion, the Bermuda Sloop is more akin to a leopard because it's smaller, faster, and more agile. The rig is so successful, in fact, that a version of the sloop is still sailed today. What about the Bermuda Sloop in Blood and Plunder, Guy? How does it perform?
In Blood and Plunder, the Bermuda Sloop is a sleek and powerful two-deck ship. It costs 13 points and has a draft of 6.
The Bermuda Sloop's max speed is 5 inches. It has a sail setting at 5, 4, 3, and 0 and anchored. Its windward value is -1, and it has a turn value of 4 inches.
The Bermuda Sloop has a hull fortitude of 4 and a hull integrity of 4. It takes 12 hits to drop the ship to 1 fortitude. The Bermuda Sloop's rigging fortitude is 3 and its rigging integrity is 5.
The Bermuda Sloop's main deck can hold 23 models, 6 cannons, and 4 swivels. Its poop deck, or the rear deck, can hold 14 models, 2 cannons that are below deck, and 4 swivels.
The ship has the traits lightly built, and that means you only can bring light cannons, and you only get standard cover instead of heavy cover. Hybrid rig, which is a little complicated there. Shallow draft means you can go over shoals easy, and simple rig, so you can change your sail settings easily.
The Bermuda Sloop can be upgraded with reinforced bulkheads for 3 points, which gives the Bermuda Sloop hard cover, and sweeps 2 for a single point.
So this is one of the flagship ships for the Raise the Black product line. Comes in the starter sets. One of the 2 ways you can build up this new hard plastic sloop for Blood and Plunder. So everybody's playing them. You see a lot of these at the tournament. There's the 2 ways you can build it. The Balandra, which is a simpler standard sloop, and the Bermuda Sloop, which is faster, but a little bit trickier to use and a little bit more fragile. How do you guys like this ship?
Oh, it's great. I have played this a lot. I do want to say that you should always buy reinforced bulkheads, so unless you're doing something fun and different, this ship is 16 points instead of 13.
And that gets a little expensive as far as ships go. The regular sloop is 14 points. It's a little bigger and harder to blow up, but this has some advantages as well.
It's very heavily armed. That's what I really love about it. 8 swivels is no joke. That hurts.
Swivels are super powerful. They always have been in Blood and Plunder, and that hasn't changed. They've been nerfed a little bit, but they're still one of the best ways to kill people on another ship, since a lot of the combat in this game happens at close range. 8 swivels, that means you can throw 24 dice with just basic in one activation with your commander activating 2 units. So that is probably the most dangerous part of this ship, the opportunity to take 8 swivels compared to the standard sloop from the 17th century. They only can take 6. That's a big difference.
And this one has the 4 swivels in the forward deck, the main deck. So that's always going to be the part of the ship that is going to be closest to your opponent for most of the game, because you're sailing at them and sailing around them. And it has 4 swivels, so you're always going to be able to draw a 12 dice bead to your opponent.
And that main deck is big enough you can actually man the cannons and those swivels if you like. Making that a very aggressive ship where you can hit hard from the front, unlike the 17th century variant. Other advantage over that 17th century variant is it has a 5-inch sail setting, and that's not even with Swift or anything, so you don't have to work hard for it. It does have a -1 windward, which is different than the 17th century one. It has 0. But still, being able to go 5 downwind or while our beam is a pretty big deal. That 1 extra inch a couple times every turn can give you a good edge over your opponent. Nothing goes faster than that, so that's good.
Yeah, let's talk about that in hybrid rig for a little bit, because if you want to sail upwind a lot, you can just drop your sail to 4 and you lose your windward penalty. Mm-hmm. I mean, it would be 4 anyways, but with hybrid rig, you lose your windward value. It becomes 0, and then you're going just as fast and just as maneuverable as every other sloop.
Sailing is not a challenge for this ship.
No.
You can even add some upgrades to it to do even crazier things. But being simple rig is nice because you don't have to use a dedicated action to move your sail setting. Going straight from 0 to 3 is really nice. Any scenarios where you have to start at 0 or anchored or anything, or if you have to get, God forbid you ever beach your ship on a shoal, I wouldn't know about that. Getting off the shoal and moving straight from 0 to 3 helped you get going really quickly. So really easy to move up and down that speed ladder, simple action rather than dedicated, which means it's a big deal. You can do other things besides just work on your sails. And then a hybrid rig is pretty good too.
Shallow draft is also great to see in the ship. With its draft of 6, you are going to run aground on 9s, so you can't. But you have to roll 2 9s or a 9 and a 10 or 2 10s to run aground. So it's likely, but still not as likely.
Yeah, the Balandra has a draft of 5. This has a 6, so you're twice as likely in the ship, but still fairly safe.
Yep.
Not a big deal. We should say what hybrid rig does. We do lose the windward penalty if you're not at your highest sail setting, but the other thing is you gain the fore and aft, which helps you tack. Lets you roll 2 dice when you tack and take the better result. And tacking is one of the more dangerous advanced maneuvers in the game. If you screw that up, you're in deep water, deep trouble. You're in trouble for a couple turns. So doubling your likelihood of succeeding on it is a big deal.
Yep.
But once you do that, you can't perform the box hauling maneuver because your top sail is down.
Yeah, I think it performs best as a small, aggressive ship. You're not going to want to try to slug it out from a distance. You want to close and either dump swivels or dump cannons from point blank range. You can't afford to stay back and shoot because you're at a 4-4, which is kind of standard for some of these smaller ships, but it's still very fragile. But if you play it aggressively, you can overwhelm a much slower vessel.
Well, I guess it depends on who you're up against. If you're up against another ship with swivels or just a boarding list, you might want to stay back if you have your light cannons because you can hit them beyond their effective range. That's the cool thing about this ship. It is flexible. If you need to go board quickly, you can do it. If you need to stay back, shoot some cannons, you can do that. But the main weakness is that fragility. 4-4 is pretty much the weakest of any of the ships until you get down to a boat like a piragua or longboat.
Yep.
So yeah, one good broadside from a larger ship can cause you some real pain.
Yeah, medium guns are not your friend.
Yeah, if they get 6 hits on their initial salvo, they're getting a free critical out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, really got to be worried about that.
Even against light guns, you did a rake on me last game we just put on YouTube. That hurts.
With that, if you are doing the boarding type of list, having those anti-grappling measures on the ship, even though it does put the ship up to 19 points with reinforced bulkheads, if you're doing swivels or cannons, you have a lot of points invested in those arms, and if somebody boards you, that's kind of lost points. 8 swivels on this is 32 points, and if you're playing a 200-point game, that's 1/6 of your list. So putting anti-grappling measures on the ship is kind of almost a necessity if you're using one of those techniques.
Yeah, you can sink a bunch of points into this little ship. One of the top placing lists at Adepticon, I think it was a 23-point Bermuda Sloop, which is almost as much as a galleon, but it was playing against a galleon and holding its own as well. So it's a small ship, but it is pretty powerful, and don't be shy about spending points to actually make it do what you need it to do. All those upgrades, ship upgrades in Raise the Black, really let you customize the ship and help you focus in on the tactic you intend to use.
You want to talk about the model a little bit, because this is one of my favorite Blood and Plunder models, which is good because it's everywhere.
Yeah, one of the big perks about it is it's cheaper. It's hard plastic. It was a big project for Firelock to put together, but came out with a pretty great product here. How was your experience building it?
I had a lot of fun building it. I've built 2 of them so far. I have a third one that I want to kind of modify a little bit. You have to, when you're going to build it, there is a directions. Of course, the directions need a little bit of help, so it's kind of hard to see how things go. But I had a lot of fun building it the first time.
How about you, Dan?
So I've built 2 as well, and I love them. For me, I guess a lot of other people had issues putting them together. I've been doing lots of hobby and different modeling for a while, so I kind of just figured it out. I looked at the instructions. And, okay, the only thing to be wary for is make sure you glue your mast on last. I would
Mhm.
recommend doing it last and painting it first, and then putting your mast on because I poked my eyes so many times during the painting process
Oh.
with the giant mast to the point where my eye was red and swollen.
Oh no.
So that's the only thing I would say is glue the mast on at very last. Make sure you put it together and prime it, paint it, get it all ready to go. Do your mast separate. Then when it's all ready to go on, then put your mast on.
Yep, that's the way to do it.
Unless you already don't miss an eye and you already have an eye patch, in which case you're good to go.
Yeah, I built one of the pre-production ones to test it out. It was fun. I didn't have any instructions at all, so I had to just figure it out. I thought it's fairly intuitive. One of the things you can do wrong is if you glue the deck and the back on first without putting the cannons in, you might not ever get the cannons in through those little gun ports. So glue the cannons down first, then glue the sides of the hole together with that deck on. So watch out for that. We did make a video on building this kit on our YouTube channel. You can look up 18th century sloop there. There's a couple of variations in how you can build it. The Balandra it's a bit simpler. You leave off the top sail and the extra length piece for the bowsprit. The Bermuda Sloop is supposed to have that. That's one of the defining features of the Bermuda Sloop is that extra long bowsprit to get extra sails up there, and then the top sail, square sail on the top of the mast there. One thing you can do if you want to modify it to make it a little more realistic, but a little harder to use, is drop that boom for the gaff sail, the main sail, down a little bit. You get more surface area for that sail. Looks a little bit more authentic, but it's a little harder to get men in and out of the sloop. And since it's a bit of a small model, that can be a problem. So they move the boom up, so it's easier to use, but it makes that sail kind of small and funky looking.
It can also be assembled at a really high level. Dexter Hyde over at the Plunder Den, he made his so there's a light shining through. He's got the door cracked open, I believe, for that underdeck, and he painted it and made it look like there was light coming out of that ship.
Yeah, it looks really good.
We've seen some pretty cool paint jobs on it. That painting contest in early 2023 here, and a lot of the ships that were entered in that contest were this model, and it was fun to see all the variety people came up with.
It's really a great ship.
Nice and easy to rig too.
It's a first kit that they've done that comes with Deadeyes for the channels, so you don't have to assemble them yourself.
And the masts and spars and everything are really highly detailed, better than just wooden dowels. It takes a little more effort to paint, in my opinion, but they look really good, and the plastic is surprisingly durable. I have dropped a whole sloop full of models on a concrete floor.
Oh no.
And nothing broke except for my models. But even though they're thin plastic pieces, I have not had anything break. So great kit. But we have got distracted with Hobby Ian. The Bermuda Sloop, as it stands, it has some high competition in the game because we have the standard sloop, we have the privateer sloop that is in No Peace Beyond the Line. That's a faster version. And then we have the Balandra as well. Then we have other 4-4 ships like the Corvette, if you're lucky enough to get one of those, or the Tartana. Where do you guys think this fits in with all that heavy competition in the same class of a 2-deck maneuverable ship?
So I would maintain that of the 4 ships, the Corvette is the king. It can fit so many models on that deck. It can carry so many guns, and it's really fast. It's basically like a little baby frigate. But I would put the Bermuda Sloop in second place. While the Tartana can take, those 2 mediums in the back, you really have to angle to make those mediums work. I've been learning that with the Tartana. I think the Bermuda Sloop is a solid second place candidate. It's really fast, really aggressive, really versatile. It's something where if you bring a Bermuda Sloop to a tournament, nobody's going to know what you're running. Are you running swivels? Are you running cannons? Are you running boarding? Whereas if someone's bringing a Tartana, I can usually assume that they're probably going to be running cannons. And with the Corvette, I'm going to assume that they're probably going to be boarding, at least in my opinion.
A lot of the time, the Corvette is hard enough to get a hold of, whereas everybody has a Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is actually below the Balandra for me. I've been sailing both of them a lot, and the Balandra's more hull kind of edges out the Bermuda. But the Bermuda is great fun for a speedy ship that has the same arms as the Balandra, and you can almost do more with it, like you said, where it can fit any of those niches that you want to play. But we have a lot of cannons in my local meta, so The Bermuda and all the 4-4 ships are kind of like asking to get blown out of the water.
I think this is a good pirate ship. If you just assume you aren't going to get blown out of the water, you assume you're going to do the attacking and hope for the best.
You can actually man every single gun on that sloop at 200 points if you play pirates or those 3-point sailors. I've done it.
Yep.
Yeah, 200 points is kind of the higher limit for this ship, I believe. Higher limits, higher 250, 300 points, you're going to start seeing. For one, you're going to start overloading the decks. You're going to run out of space unless you have a really elite crew.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're running up against maybe a bigger cannon list that's going to wipe you out. So that's a danger. But we see a lot of these at tournaments right now, and they do well. We've seen people win with Bermuda Sloop or the Balandra. So it's definitely a competitive ship, but at the 200 level, it's starting to push it. And after that, bit of a iffy choice.
It is a good backup ship. You can put 8 cannons and a decent crew on it for under 100 points. If you have a larger ship and you just want to outfit something to like stay away and pelt somebody with cannons, this is a good ship for that. If they concentrate fire on it, they're not concentrating fire on your bigger investment anyways.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to run 2 of these. Actually, 2 Bermudas or a Balandra and a Bermuda and kind of work together. But can't really go wrong with this ship. Just don't get blown up with cannons.
Deploy creatively.
And if you want some more history on this, we have Liam Taylor wrote a historical article on Blood and Pigment here that kind of goes through what is distinctive about it, kind of the path to development, and great information on it. The title of that article is Leopards of the Sea, Bermuda Sloops in the Golden Age of Piracy. Highly recommended read. All right, we've talked about the ship probably long enough. Any final parting shots with light cannon before we wrap it up here?
You probably already own one of these.
Most Blood and Plunder players own one of these, and it's a great place to start. And it's a great place to end, too, if you just want to play smaller games at 200 less. I mean, 200 is a standard point game, so no need to go above that. Great ship. Can take some practice to learn to sail it well. Has a lot of strengths you can play to. And you can always decide to play it as the Balandra if you want some variety as well.
Yep.
And it's real sexy looking, too. That raked mast just looks amazing.
Yeah, that's one of the other distinctive features of the Bermuda Sloop, that mast tipped back. Very piratey. Very rakish.
Yeah.
Ye olde hot rod.
That's right. We do have a extensive written review of the Bermuda Sloop up on Blood and Pigment as well. And if you are interested in how all the ships sail in the game, we have full reviews of all the ships in Blood and Plunder, along with other articles on factions and nations and terrain building and painting guides and battle reports and any topic you can think of on Blood and Plunder. Check it out there.
Subscribe and ring the ship's bell so you can stay notified of our uploads. We also have a Patreon as well, so check that out.
And as always, keep your dice ready, the wind at your back, yar har.